Hey girlies, it's Tara.
And it's Lissy, your favourite FaceTime besties. Well, we better be anyway.
Obviously. Welcome to an episode of Navigating Your 20s with us. We hope you enjoy.
And just a reminder, girls, we are absolutely not trained experts.
We are just girlies too, so don't take anything we say as gospel.
So I'm thinking, let's just try and figure out this whole 20s thing together. What do you think, Tara?
I think that's what we're basically doing every day together, babes. So let's get straight into it.
Welcome back to the podcast.
Guys, it's our first long distance one. I'm literally at my sister's in Colorado and it feels so weird.
It is crazy that you're now in America. I'm like, what the heck?
I know. Yesterday, I literally got my American phone number and swapped over my WhatsApp, and I was just letting everyone know. I was like, guys, it should come through, but this is my American number because I'm American.
And all of our WhatsApps got deleted.
But it didn't for me, and it didn't for anybody else, so I don't know where yours went.
I think my whole WhatsApp must have just bugged out because I added your number to the same contact, and I literally saw all of our old messages, they just disappeared. I was like, wait, what? And then I went onto the new messenger, and it was just the beginning, and I was like, oh my God, I've literally lost everything. I was kind of sad, but then I was like, actually, am I ever going to look back on our old messages? Do you know what I mean? Because we're just going to be messaging you. But then I was like, that is kind of sad.
Don't you worry, babe. I've still got it because I looked at my mom's. Basically, me and Lissy had this fiasco yesterday, but I looked at my mom's and my sister's, and you can still see it just comes up as a separate chat because of my new number. So I don't really know, but I have everything we ever need. If you want to look back, babe, I'll screen record our whole 4 years of our messages. I'll send you
screenshot all those pictures again.
Yeah, why not? I'm here. But guys, I don't know why getting an American number felt like an act. I'm actually I was my parents were you need to do it ASAP, and I was I don't want to.
It is a big step. That's your new number now.
What?
But you're American.
What's going on? Wait, I can't believe wait, I actually live here now, but I'm in Colorado for our first long distance podcast. I will eventually be in New York, but I'm spending some time with my sister and my niece and nephew, which is so nice. So we're taking the podcast from Colorado first.
Yes, we are. And I think this episode we decided was just going to be kind of a backstory into us, and then we were going to properly start the topics from the next episode. So look out on our stories because we will actually now be posting. What was that? Oh!
Sorry, guys, we're just figuring out if you make a hearts pop up on this. Except for Lissy's, she sucks. Sorry, Lissy. So sorry to interrupt. I got distracted by the hearts billowing out of my head.
But yeah, we're going to put up the question boxes for the dilemmas, the situations, for the FaceTime therapist, and also your juicy secrets. So that will start from next week's episode. But this week, we're just going to do a backstory into us, aren't we?
Oh my gosh, I don't even know where to begin. Obviously, in the first podcast, we said how it was a slide in the DMs and a COVID walk. But should we start by explaining kind of what life situations we were in when we first met?
Yeah.
A little bit more what you were doing, where you were living. You go first, girl. Give a little backstory.
Okay, so obviously I did briefly say that I came to London when I was 21, moved into a shared flat, and it was during COVID, so it was a bit of a weird time. I had a part-time PA/nanny job working for this woman, and I worked for her for about 3 months, and at Christmas, which was when we first went into lockdown again after the long lockdown, she was I'm not going to need you because we're in lockdown. I was like, right, okay, great. I was I've literally just moved to London. I now have rent and bills to pay. I don't have a job. And because it was a part-time kind of 0-hour contract thing, it was very much your last work days next week. I was brilliant, noted.
Amazing. Merry Christmas. Thank you so much.
Literally. So then I was on such a stress trying to find a new job. And honestly, I was just looking for anything at this point. I wanted something PA-ish related because obviously I just done that course in it. Anyway, ended up finding this property company, and it was the weirdest experience of my life. This was when I first met you. I worked for this property company, didn't I?
literally one of our first conversations on this walk is you were telling me about this, and then you were telling me like the wild stories, and I was like, what's going on?
It was honestly like I was shocked, to be honest. Like, it was honestly the most bizarre experience. It was two brothers who owned this weird property company. They owned loads of these like massive HMOs. Like, I was basically an estate agent. I had to show these people around these HMOs. And like, when I tell you, they were the most disgusting properties I've ever stepped foot in. Like, I would like honestly see the rats running in the kitchen. Like, it stunk in there. The state of these properties, I was like, are you actually allowed to rent these? Like, that's how vile they were. These two men as well were like the biggest creeps. Like, they were actually just like not okay. One of them used to tell me that they were really jealous of George because George was getting in the way of mine and his marriage. I went,
Sorry,
oh no.
that is just so inappropriate. Like, where is HR? Like, these, what?
Literally. And the other girl who worked with me, so it was me and one other girl, the other girl had had a threesome with the two brothers who owned the company.
Sorry, like, you could not write this. Like, the fact that this was your first experience in London.
I know.
What?
And I was like, wait, sorry, what? I was like, you've all had a threesome together. I was like, that is disgusting. The owner also had a wife. I was like, right, yeah, noted. I was like, I'm not
up.
Yeah, I was like, I'm not safe here. I was like, I need to get out.
Because when I met you, you were like in that mindset where you're like, I really want to get out of this job. Like, I'm not enjoying it. These guys are so creepy. Like, I'm not like,
No,
I need out.
it was bad. It got really, really bad. There was actually one point where my mum was telling me to write down everything they were saying and doing so that if I needed to go to the police, I had like evidence of time and what they were saying and when.
Sorry, it's just so scary. Like, this is literally what we're talking about, guys. Like, when you end up in these situations in your 20s, like, and especially when you're in your like early 20s and this is like your first job, like, you don't know what to do.
No, it's literally terrifying. Like, it's literally terrifying. And you're like, when you're renting and needing to pay bills, you're like, wait, what am I like? I can't leave now because I need to pay bills. Like, I can't just suddenly be like, see you later.
And
Like, I've got a life which I need to pay for.
this is when you were living in the shared house.
That was when I was living in the shared flat, which was also just bizarre. Like, that was just a really weird. To be fair, I actually never saw any of my flatmates. It was very strange.
Well, yeah, we met at a lovely time.
Very strange part of my life. And then that was then when Aoife saved me, my old boss.
Oh, we loved her.
I know, she was great. And then that was when I became a nanny, and I was a nanny up until last December.
You moved in with George?
I moved in with George 2.5 years ago.
Gosh, that is flown.
I know, because we signed a 3-year tenancy and it runs out in October.
Because I obviously knew you in your shared house, and then you moved in with your friend in Fulham.
Yes.
And you were like, right, she was literally in the house behind my dad's house where my dad was living for a couple months. And it was so cute because we were literally just like, when I'd go see my dad, I could go see Lissy too in Fulham. But then you were like, I'm moving in with George.
I know. That is so crazy, isn't it? I used to go on walk famous.
Oh, we loved my dog. I mean, he's still alive. He's not dead. I'm just like across the world. So everything feels really monumental to me, guys. Like, honestly, like I made a TikTok this morning of me hugging everyone goodbye. Like, I took videos of hugging everyone goodbye. And I sat in bed about 4 a.m. because of jet lag, just crying, being like, why does everything feel so like monumental? But no, I'd say that's the only, like, do you want to talk about the little freak out you had?
Oh, the freak out. I did have a freak out.
Because I feel like you are in the healthiest relationship, like one of the healthiest relationships of anybody I've ever known. Like, you and George are just like mom and dad. Like, they're so healthy. They're so in love. They like are funny. Like, they're just a great couple. And when I vividly remember the only freak out you ever had, because I was boarding a flight to Cancun.
Oh my God, yes.
To go to a wedding with my ex, and like Lizzie sends me these voice notes at like 2 a.m. because I'm like going to like a 6 a.m. flight.
Point as well. Like, I had a couple of drinks. You know, sometimes when you have a few drinks, the emotions are just really running wild.
But like, I thought Lizzie was just voice noting me drunk to be like, hey, like, have a good flight, like, miss you. But why
I
don't
was
you
like,
share your side?
oh my God. So obviously me and George, we've been going out for like, how long it had been at that point? It must have been 4 years at
Long
least,
time.
I reckon. Anyway, we had obviously been prepping to move in together as soon as George finished uni, because obviously he went to uni, so we weren't going to live together. And so we'd basically been looking forward to this moment of moving in together for at least 3 years. Like, I was ready to move in with him before he even went to uni. Then he moved to uni, and I was like, right, I've got 3 years to wait. During these 3 years, obviously you're seeing each other every 3 weeks, like it every 2 or 3 weeks. Like it was very much like a long distance. Well, it was a long distance.
No,
Like
it was long distance. Like, you were in different
yeah,
cities, you were doing different things.
yeah. He was in Bristol, I was in London. Anyway, it came up to like nearing on moving in together, and I don't know what it was, but I was like, oh my God. I think I was like, the pressure of this is going to make or break your relationship. Like it's going to do either or, really, because we've been completely fine up until now. So this really is going to be the point where you're going to really thrive or you're going to really not. And I just got in my head so much, and I was like, wait, what am I doing? I was like, why am I about to risk something where this could break the relationship? But then I was like, this could also make us. I was literally freaking out. Like, I'd never lived with this boy. Like, I was literally like, this could go so horribly wrong. And obviously signing a 3-year tenancy as well. I was like, what happens if it does go wrong and then we're stuck in this flat? I was also like, because I hadn't been to uni, and although I'd gone to college, like a PA course college thing for a year, COVID had hit. So I was only living with friends for like 4 months. And then obviously I was only with a friend for a year in London. All of my friends have been living with friends in university. And I was like, should I be moving in with George now? Because I'm going to be living with him for the rest of my life. I was like, should I be enjoying living with friends now? But I didn't want to live with friends. Like, I was so ready to move in with George. I was honestly like, the battle in my head, I freaked out.
But I think it's such, like, I remember saying to you at the time, like, this is so normal to freak out because it is a big deal. And like, you knew it was right. We knew it was right for you, but like, it is normal. And I think that's like such a thing we will definitely discuss later in the like podcast, like more and more, is like freaking out like doesn't mean that something's not right. Like, it's just that in your 20s you're making so many big decisions, and moving in with a boy for 3 years when you've literally been doing long distance because he was at uni was a big decision. And like, it's completely normal to have a little freak out to one of your best friends and be like, oh my God, am I making the right decision? And then like, you woke up the next day and you were like, no, like, this is so the right decision. You just had like a little freak out, and it's so normal.
Yeah, that's the thing. It was just a complete wobble, and I was like, oh my God. And it is like what you said, like, it's just the battle in your head. You're like, am I doing the right thing or am I not? Because this is working already. So I'm like, why am I gonna potentially ruin this? But I can confirm it's okay, guys.
Guys, we're still here. We're still here. And you know what? Honestly, that is like essentially what you just said, the theme of our podcast. Am I doing the right thing or not? Like, that is
So,
essentially navigating your freaking 20s. Like,
yes.
am I, this is a big decision, me right now in Colorado, like, am I making the right decision moving to the States? Like, these are all just things, and you're like, you know it's right, but like, you can have a little freak out, and that's what friends are for, just to be like, no. And like, I think you freaked out to me because I was living with my ex at the time, so like, I was living with a boy. I knew what it was like I knew what to expect. I'd obviously not been living with him in uni, and then we moved in together at the end of uni. Like, it
Yeah,
just is a thing.
it is. And at that time, were you doing your masters?
I'm literally, as you were speaking, I was trying to like remember the timeline of my life in London.
When I first met you.
No, I had moved to London, but I wasn't doing my master's yet.
Yes.
So when you met me, I had moved to London like 4 months prior. So I moved to London when I was 22.
Right.
Because I was there for 5 years, guys. I'm 27, and I just left, if you didn't already know, from the fact that I literally just freak out in every episode about the fact that I'm in America. And I moved down, and then I was like applying for this master's, but I thought I just needed to move down because my lease in Liverpool was ending. I was like, I just need to get to London. I did a course online, like a Cambridge course about like sustainability, and then I applied for my master's. And then when I'd known you for 6 months, that's when I started my master's. And all this time, I like moved to London with my ex. Like we were in London together. We were living together. We lived in Notting Hill first in that apartment, like the basement one that flooded.
Yes,
And
I
then
remember
that
that.
was like, yeah, it was my brother's flat, and then it flooded. He was kicking me out, and then it flooded. I was like, oh God. You know, at the time I was like, I can't believe he's kicking me out. Like, he told me I had a year, and then it flooded, and I was like, did I accidentally like manifest?
The flood was
Like,
bad as well, wasn't it?
yeah, it, like ruined a bunch of houses in Notting Hill because like not like Portobello was on like kind of a slope, and we were in a basement flat. It was pretty bad. Me and Bleep, my ex, Bleep. I'm like, won't mention him his name, except everyone who knows me knows who he is. Pretty sure he's still all over my Instagram. Pretty sure there's a highlight with his name on it. I'm just not. I'm not a deleter, guys. I don't delete. I don't like unfollow. I'm just not one of those people. Like,
You're
unless an ex.
sentimental, I think. Like, you're too sentimental. You love, like, to be fair, like, he was a huge part of your life.
Yeah, I'll get into it, guys. He was like, I dated him for nearly 8 years, and also like we ended really well. Like now things are a little weird, but like we ended quite well. So also like we have mutual friends. Like I'm just not, unless something really bad happens with like an ex. Like obviously if he had cheated on me or something, I would have unfollowed him. But like we stayed friends for like a long time until he got in a new relationship because like I am just that sort of person where
Yeah.
like it just wasn't right, but it didn't mean that we weren't both great people. Like there was
Yeah.
things that we weren't able to give each other, but we were still both great people. And we lived together in London for like years. So when Lissy met me, we lived together in Notting Hill, and then we moved into our Holland Park flat. And he was like with me when I did. Obviously, I met him in uni, like did my undergrad. I did a master's in Liverpool as well. He was with me through that. Then he was with me through my master's in London. That I specifically came to London for a specific master's at Imperial for climate change. So I like he came down to London for that, and he got a job, and we were like navigating that whole thing. And we'll definitely discuss that in greater detail like later in the podcast, because I think when you move to a city with a partner and like you guys don't want the same things, which is not, it was not for both of us. And I think that's like definitely something we'll discuss in like the relationships topics, because like knowing when a relationship no longer works for both of you is a really hard thing to like navigate, and like understanding what's just a wobble and what's actually like okay long term, like this isn't gonna work.
Understanding one another and, like, coming to the realization mutually that, like, it's not going to work.
Yeah, it was not fun. It was not a fun realization, and I was like doing my masters, and I don't think I like realized it then, but because like we were still pretty new in London, and like he wasn't loving it at first, but like I thought maybe is this just like a adjustment phase. And then by the end of my masters, I got a job for a company that I love, and I was doing sustainability for them, and it was just like so great, and I was like really enjoying London. I met all these amazing people like Lissy through Instagram, and like I just had all these fun opportunities. Whereas like my ex was like a big homebody and like missed his family and just wasn't loving London. Like it's a really expensive city. It's like a hard adjustment when you've lived in like one city your whole life and then you move to this new city.
But I also think, I really do think that London, I think because London is such a busy, crazy place, everyone's like, oh, it's going to be so much fun. Like, it's London. But actually, I think London can be one of the loneliest places because everyone is just going about their daily life. Like, you
Yeah.
so insignificant in that city. And I actually think you can become very lonely from it because it's actually a very unfriendly city, to be honest. Like,
I will agree,
I
guys, because like, honestly, I come back to the States and everyone's like, "Hi, like, how are you?" Like, and I'm like, "I love this." Whereas, like in London, it's like, no,
I've become so rude. Like, I literally walk down the street with a face of a flat slapped ass. Like, if someone gets in my way, there's a problem. Like, I'm there huffing and puffing, walking past them.
no,
Like,
it does happen.
I know, and like, I won't say hello to anyone. I don't say. To be fair, I do still say my thank yous. Like, I haven't got that rude. People
Yeah,
don't.
I hope you still have your manners, babe.
Yeah, like if someone like lets you go past or holds the door open, of course I'm going to say thank you. And people who don't, best believe I'm walking through and going, yeah, thank you, no problem.
No, I do agree, and I also think like when you come from a really friendly city, like my ex was from Liverpool. It was such a friendly city. Like I loved going to uni there, and then you come to London, and it's like not. And I was so used. I've moved all the time, as we said in the last podcast. Like my parents ship me every couple of years. Like threw me in a new city. I'm so used to just like making friends. And I do think it is easier for girls to make friends in your 20s than guys. Like, I think girls will like swipe up on each other's stories and like through a friend, like a girl's more likely to like invite one friend to like a group thing that she's doing with another group. And like, although that doesn't always turn out well.
No.
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 But
But I think we were lucky in the fact that we had Instagram. Like, obviously,
I
with
agree.
content creation, I think it is actually a really like good opener to create friends in London. All of my friends in London, pretty much. Like, obviously, I've got a handful now from home, but pretty much all of
Yeah.
London are from content creation, and like I've met through social media because you kind of have a common ground. Like, that's how, and
And
also,
you can just like swipe, like slide into each other's DMs like you did. Like, it's more normal. And I remember when I was like getting frustrated towards my ex because he wasn't loving London, and like I was like starting this new job and I had these friends, and I was like, just, it was a lot of emotions, and I had like some family stuff going on. I was like, I just like don't understand why you don't love it, which was like also like not fair to him. But I was like, why don't you love it? But then he made a valid point where he was like, you have Instagram, you have met most of your friends, apart from like your master's friends or people from cities you've lived in that are now living in London. Like, all my new friends were from Instagram in the same way. And like, he didn't have that. And like, I was like, no, but like, just make friends, which is just not easy. I was being a brat. I was like, wait, just like, go to the pub, make some friends.
no, it is definitely easier said than done. And it's so daunting going up to people. Like, you know, even at some events, I see someone who, like, I know from social media, but you've not necessarily met. Oh my God. If you think I'm
It's
going,
so awkward.
like, I really have to build the courage to do that. Like, it is daunting.
It's just so awkward. Whereas like when you're like sliding in someone's DMs and you're like meeting up for a shoot like we did with all the girls, like it's so normal, and like you guys like the same things, and like it's just so fun. Like, I think I just had such a good view of London that I like didn't really understand how anybody else didn't. And I think because my dad had like lived in London. When we lived in Ireland, my dad lived in London and like flew back. So I was like used to how expensive it was. I understood the city. I had like family here as well. I had my dad, my brother,
Yeah.
who were like I loved. So I was like very lucky. And then I had all these amazing friends. But let me tell you guys, back in when did we break up? October 2023, which is wild.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that is
Over. That's like a year and a half.
yeah,
You were having thoughts 2 years ago.
yeah. It was because you know what, and like I communicated this with my ex. I was like, I just feel like I'm not sure we're like we want the same things, and like I knew I wanted to move to America, which now I've done, and like he didn't love London, and I was like, it's not fair if you're missing your family in London, you're not gonna want to live in the States
No.
because that is just so far away from Liverpool. But I remember like it was around this time, and something happened to like someone in my family, and it was just like I feel like it was like one thing after another, and I just had this complete meltdown basically to my friends. And this is when I like literally would shut off. Like, I would not text my friends back. I just hid it in my flat because I was like, there's just so much going on in my head. And like my friends would be like, can you just like send the thumbs up so like we know you're alive? And I was like, yeah, no, I am. But I'd put my phone on like airplane mode, and people would be like, where is Tara? And I was like, it just was so many emotions to shift through. And I feel like it's not talked enough, like in your 20s, which again was the reason for this podcast. So like all these things you have to navigate, and you don't always have somebody that you feel comfortable talking to. And like I did want to talk to my friends, and I did start, but like I also was like, if this is just a wobble, are my friends gonna think that I shouldn't be with him? And it was like such a weird situation.
I think when you are not sure yourself, it's so hard to speak about something because you're like, if you're then gonna open up, I think especially with our friends in London, like really by then, like we weren't new friends, but you weren't like, they weren't your lifelong friend.
Yeah, I hadn't known you for like 10 years. Like, I
Yeah.
didn't know what you were going to say. I didn't know what anyone was going to think. And like I feel like me and my ex, like people were like, oh, it's like mom and dad because they knew us for so long. And like when my new friends came in,
I fully used to think you and
bleep.
were like, I used to look up to you two. Like, I honestly used to be like, oh my God, like, you're living in my dream location. Like, you're living together. Because me and George weren't living together at this point. Like, I really, like, you were like mum and dad. Like, you were like the mum and dad of the group, really.
Yeah, honestly, guys, traumatizing when you have to tell all of your different friends, especially like your friends that knew you guys when you started dating, like that you're breaking up. I was like, I felt like it was the same way when I just last week when I moved and I had to say goodbye to everyone and like explain the situation over and over again of like what I'm gonna be doing in New York and all this stuff. I was like, this is absolutely traumatizing. But lucky, like I'm a big communicator and I always communicated a lot with him and like we kind of spoke around the time of my birthday. If you remember, I said to him, I was like, I just am
Yeah.
not sure this is working. Like, I feel like I knew in my head that like I also like adored him, and I was like, I think it's only nice to like to do the breaking up and like send him home to what he really wanted.
I think it's really important to also know what you feel in your gut and actually go forward with it. Like, I think far too many people get stuck in relationships and stay in them because it's safe and it's comfortable, but actually you now have been so much better off for not being in that relationship. And yes, it was hard going through all of that, but
Yeah.
like, you're a completely different person, really.
No, it is weird. And like, I obviously like grew up with him. I knew him since I was 19 when we started dating, or we started dating like 2 weeks before my 19th birthday, which is wild. And when like in the summer, we really worked at it, but I was just like, it's just not right. And like, I adored him. I was like, you just like, I want you to be happy too. And that's the thing I think when you truly love someone and like you truly care about somebody, you want them to be happy, even if it means like you guys don't get to be happy together. And I was like, right. I think we should on a random Sunday. I think I remember ordering Egg's and was like, so I really do think we should break up. And like I knew I wanted to move to America like ASAP, and like it just wasn't fair to him. It wasn't fair to me.
No.
It wasn't like our families, our like jobs, everything. I was like, we just need to. We want different things, and it was awful.
Because you guys were built on such a friendship as well. Like, when you're best friends with someone, you have that respect and care for them, which I think you should always for your boyfriend, especially a long-term boyfriend. Like, they really have, well, they should have become your best friend. And I think,
excuse me, George better not be your best friend. I don't love where this is headed. Actually, gonna retract. I'm like, wait, run the tape.
but I think it is important to look out for what they want. And I think, like you said, you knew your paths were just not aligning anymore, and therefore it's just not going to work. And it is a sad situation. But if you then look back on it, you're so grateful for going through that situation to now be who you are today.
And honestly, guys, like me and Lizzie were discussing this the other day. Obviously, like talking through all this stuff that like are different points in London. We've obviously been through a lot of different eras in London in our careers and our living situation and our friends and like whatever. But that October to like the following October.
Yeah. No, before summer. No, wait. I'm confused.
It was, yeah, we broke up in October, and I feel like I really took until June to like properly heal. And like,
yeah, it was like
all my friends were like a part of that. Like, I was sad all the time. I'd randomly like cry, like, and I was going through all this like decisions of like moving to the US, and obviously as well, like I kind of not learned who my true friends were during my breakup, but in a way I did. Like, you realize who's there for you, who's gonna help you navigate these situations in your 20s, and who's gonna like listen to you chatting about the same situation over and over again. And like
said, we were like, it brought us so much closer together. Like, we actually looked back on our friendship when we first became friends, and yes, we did click. Like, we obviously clicked because otherwise we wouldn't still be here today. It's so interesting looking back, seeing how much deeper we are as if like how much deeper our friendship is now to how deep we thought it was at the beginning. At the beginning, you know, we were like, we're such good friends, but when you then look at it back now, yes, we were, but not really on the same level.
No, and I really think this is like a topic we'll discuss as like a proper topic of the podcast, is like when you are navigating your 20s and like you're going through a stressful situation, like you don't always let people in. And I feel like because I was going through all that, like I let people in to an extent, but they saw what I wanted them to see. And same with like my ex, like I knew what I wanted him to see at the time, but I like myself was like going through so much. And since I would say October when I broke up with him, like my friendships and like knowing me, knowing what I want, knowing myself, knowing my friendships, everything has just become like unconditionally myself. And now my friends that like stuck by, I feel like they know who I actually am. And like the girl in October 2023, I don't know who she is. It's
But I think
weird.
the thing in your 20s is you don't know who you are a lot of the time. Like, really, only now I feel like I've really become like established as to who I am, and like you really fully understand yourself and like what you want and what you want from your friends and what you want to give to your friends and to your partner and just to life in general. But back in the day, like I look back at myself and I'm like, it's so wild. Like I actually had no clue who I was, and that is so normal in your 20s. Like that is such a normal thing to have, to think and to not know what you're doing. I didn't know what job I wanted to do. I didn't know where I wanted to live. I didn't know anything, but you feel like you should in your 20s, but actually you really shouldn't, because I had no clue.
And honestly, guys, like I know myself now, but I also like I'm 27. I know myself. I know my friends. I've relatively fixed relationships with my family. There's a few outliers. But like I still am now like I'm moving to New York. I'm starting over looking for a new job. Like I don't 100% know what I want. I know who I am, but like your 20s, you can be 27. You can start over. You can freak out. You can move to a new continent. You can do whatever.
I think honestly in your 20s it's the best time to do it. Like if you're thinking you want to do something, you go and do it, because I think as soon as one is going to start to settle down, have kids, whatever age that is, not that your life stops, because I don't personally agree that it does stop. I think you take your kids with you.
I'm like, guys, I've literally been here for 24 hours and I'm like, poor sister, these kids are like, mommy, mommy, mommy. And I'm like,
But I think people don't know what they want to do, and that's completely fine. And I think even if you think you know what you want to do and then you do it and then in 2 years time you realize, actually no, I want to switch it up, there's no time frame on life. Like whatever well, there is actually, because you do die eventually. But
no, but there's no framework. Like you shouldn't view your life as like a tick, tick, tick.
view it as, by this age I need to have done this, by this age I need to have done that, and I am actually the worst at that. Like I am,
I
honestly.
was about to say, I was like, pot meet kettle.
I have like 1 year, 5 year, and 10 year plans. I probably have since I was the age of like 5.
Oh, you shouldn't like plan by a certain age. I was like, I don't want to call you out on the podcast, but like, that is just so weird.
I mean, you can have that personally, but as like you shouldn't be like, oh, because the world thinks you should be having kids by 30, for example, doesn't mean you should have kids by 30 just because that's like what's done.
And I also like, I really think like obviously everyone's been dealing with like chaotic Tara of like in her healing phase, and then now is like ready, like a spring chicken, ready to like go to the States. Mostly a spring chicken, like a seasoned chicken. Um, my parents and I remember some of like my friends, as well as like my brother who's like older than me, he's 5 years older, gave some good advice that like people say in your 20s you're supposed to be like smashing life and doing all these things. Your 20s are actually for like figuring out what you want, trial and error. You can end a relationship, you can end a job, you can move, you can do all these things because realistically, like this is your first time in the adult world. Like it is for making mistakes. And I remember both my parents saying to me, like, this is the time to make mistakes. You don't want to be like at the end of your 30s or like 40s and be like, I wish I'd done that in my 20s, and then decide to do it now, where you can't be as like chaotic with your decisions because you've got a mortgage and you've got kids and like it's just a different environment. Whereas like when you're in your 20s, like do it.
Yeah, I also think making mistakes is so like normal and actually good. Like you learn from your mistakes. Like if you make no mistakes and you're perfect, with all due respect, you can't be perfect, because you only ever learn from your mistakes. Like that is the time where you learn and you grow and you become more established in yourself by making those mistakes.
Yeah, me and Lizzie have made plenty an old mistake in our friendship. Like we've that's what the debriefs are for. We debrief the mistakes, and if it's fixable, we figure out how to fix it. If it's not fixable, we figure out how to live with it.
Exactly. And that's the difference as well. Like you either live with something or you fix it.
Amen. And like,
Simple as that.
honestly, get that on a t-shirt. I'm like a firm believer, and I think like because me and Lissy are living such different points of our lives and still best friends, like I'm a firm believer that your 20s can be anything you want it to be, and it's just about figuring out what you specifically want, and there's no right or wrong, there's no timeline. Like just turn the voices off. I call it turn the voices in the brain off and like listen to your voice, not the outside voices from like your parents or your partner or whatever. Like obviously they're important, you can take input, but like listen to this voice.
I also think if there's a slight niggle of you wanting to do something, just do it. Make it happen. I'm such a
Yeah.
fan of making stuff happen. Like if you want something, you gotta make it happen.
I agree. And I think like people are like, oh well, like I've got to figure out like I know like one of my friends was literally talking about like moving to Australia, and she was saying another one of her friends wants to move to Australia but like isn't like sure. And I'm like, if they really wanted to, if they want to move to Australia, they will accept that maybe they can't move at the same time as you and they need to save for a year. But if it's really what they want, like you will make it happen. And like it's not always black and white. It's not always like you can go do it tomorrow. But if you have a dream, if you have a city that's calling you or you have a job that's calling you, you will start to put in the groundwork early on and like spend a year. And if it's really your dream, it'll still be your dream in a year when you're able to financially go, or you're able to go with the expertise you need, or maybe you have some family stuff you need to deal with for a year. Like you will make it happen.
It's the beauty of manifesting.
No, and guys, like I honestly don't even really know what I'm doing. Like, yeah, I'm in Colorado. Like, when am I going to New York? Not 100% sure. Like, next few weeks. But like, I just know that like I've given myself yesterday and today to like turn my brain off and spend some time with my niece and nephew. But from tomorrow, I'm like back on the Excel grind of my New York plan. But like, I know I will make it happen. I'm like not stressed. I'm probably giving my parents extra gray hairs because I'm just not stressed because I'm like, no, I know I will make it happen. The city is obviously calling me for a reason. The fact that I've wanted to go for so long, all my friends, my like old bosses knew I wanted to go, is because it was calling me, and it's gonna be great for me. And I
I
don't know what I'm about, guys. I'm jet lagged.
if you genuinely believe something's going to happen though, you can make it happen. Like I love manifesting. Like I actually remember the day that I begun to manifest. I remember it so vividly in my head, and like I have never looked back. I genuinely think changing your mindset into that way of thinking is so, like I just think it's incredible. I know this isn't like a whole manifesting podcast, but I think manifesting is like
No,
so
we will 100% go into it because I feel like you were a huge manifester. I have the
I
Roxy book. I love manifesting.
like I feel like as a pair though, we really do live by like the universe. Like the universe will be telling you something, the universe will be sending you signs, the universe is like prepping you for something. Like I am such a believer of manifesting.
I also think like I think it's easy to believe in manifesting when you take the view as well that like this is something I've really ingrained in my brain, is that nothing that's meant for you will pass you by. And like because obviously sometimes you're manifesting for something and I think people like stop because they're like, oh well it didn't happen and like it took a different route. And I firmly believe, given the fact that I've wanted so many different careers, I've moved so much, all these different things I thought was going to happen just didn't happen, but then it ended up being so much better, even if I had to go through a time of like turbulence, which I view as the
Mm.
universe like testing me in a way. And then the outcome is so much better than you want. And if you take that mindset of like maybe you won't get what you want that you think you want, but the universe, when you truly believe in manifesting, will give you what you deserve, which is even better than what you first initially probably wanted.
It's so true though, because whatever will be, and whatever the time difference is, it will happen. Like it really, really will happen. Like I fully manifested this flat. Oh my god! Like
Guys, that was the stressful manifesting situation of my life, and I wasn't even the one doing
I,
it.
I was well, I wasn't homeless. I went and moved in with my grandpa, but I was moving. I lived with him for like 2 weeks when I really that wasn't in my plan schedule. That wasn't in my schedule. You know, like I was in my old flat, and this specific location I've wanted to live in for years. Like I was like, that is where I am going to live. Like I am going to live there. I know I am. It got closer and closer to the time of me moving out of my old flat, and I was like, oh god, Oh God, I have nowhere. And I know rental properties do move very quickly in London, but we were getting close to that deadline, and I was thinking, oh crap. I obviously knew I could move into my grandpa's, but it wasn't going to be the most ideal situation. But I'm very grateful for him for housing me for
Yeah,
2
we love
years.
him. We love him for doing that.
We do. He is great. But anyway, yeah, I remember lying down on my living room floor every single day in my old flat, and I used to literally just picture myself in this flat in my dream location, and I used to dream of it. I used to say I will be there, I will do that, and I used to honestly sit for 5 minutes and picture myself in that location. And we actually put an offer. It got to like a week before I was moving out, right? We went and viewed like 3 flats. And I went and put an offer in one flat. Our offer got accepted. And me and George were like, oh, should we or should we not? Because it wasn't in our dream location. We were like, should we just take it or should we not? Because realistically, we need somewhere to live. So, like, should we just take it? Anyway, we were like, no, weirdly, we were on the phone and I said to George, I was like, right, let me just quickly look on Rightmove one more time and see if anything has come up. Went on Rightmove and this flat had just come up, and I was like, right, I'm gonna go and view it tomorrow. Booked in a viewing, said to the other people, can we let you know? And they were like, you have to let us know by 12 p.m. the next day if you're going forward with this offer. My viewing of this flat was at 12 p.m. So I was like, right, we're going to have to say yes or no before we've seen the new flat. We were like, do you know what? We're going to say no to that offer. So we said no to that offer, came to this flat, and I viewed two on the same day, this flat and another flat. And this flat was like a whole open house. Like, it wasn't even a private viewing. Like, they just had it open for like 2 hours. And everyone who wanted to view it came and viewed it. It was packed. I'm pretty sure I queued up the stairs to come and look at this flat. Looked around and I was like, that's actually pretty disgusting, to be honest, because obviously it was it came as unfurnished. So when I looked around it, it was all of the previous owner's furniture. Did they clean it up? Absolutely not. Like,
They never do.
there was crap everywhere. I was literally like, what the fuck? Excuse my language. Said to George, I was like, I'm really not too sure about this, to be honest. And he was like, look past the mess, think of the blank canvas, like, think of the space, it could be great. So anyway, we put our offer in thinking, we don't know if we're going to get it. The estate agent was like, if you don't, the estate agent basically said you should offer over asking price because everyone else is offering over asking price. We were like, right, we don't know if you're bullshitting us, but we're just going to offer over asking price anyway. Then 2 hours
Yeah.
later, got the call up and they were like, yeah, it's for you. And we were like, oh my God.
I vividly remember you sending it to me and being like, I've just got this flat, and me mapsing, and it was like an 8-minute walk up the road from my flat. And I was like, you literally did manifest this because
Oh,
you like wanted this so bad. And I was like, I even lost my faith a little bit. I was like, I don't know if Lucy's gonna be able to find a flat because like it was getting so expensive. The rental market was so crazy. And then it was like literally it just happened.
I know. I fully manifested it, and I think that's when I first properly believed in manifesting. Like, I feel like it was the universe really saying like it does work, so believe in it. Because I think it was honestly like a week. It was like crunch time. It was a week until I needed to move out. We had nothing. And this flat was like the perfect flat in the dream location for the right price, and we got it. And I even said to George, I was like, how the fuck did we just get that? Like, in comparison to everyone else, I was like,
Because
why?
you were manifesting, babe.
Exactly. But I really am such a believer. I love manifesting.
No, I honestly, guys, I got rid of like all my books, obviously moving here.
What do you
And
actually, I don't know what to do with my previous journals. I'm like, I don't want to put it in the bin because what if someone starts reading through it?
wait, you're like the ones you're writing in.
Yeah, like, like previous like journals that you write in, but then you run
Oh,
out.
I never throw them away.
So you just have a stack full of your journals.
Yeah, because I think I also, okay, this is like so sad and kind of a depressing view, but like I keep a diary, and my dad has a bunch of them in Ireland, and then um like I've just kept all of mine because I think like if something happens and I lose my memory, first of all, I really want to look back
You've told me
I've
this.
said this to you.
You've told
Like,
me.
I think it's important to like know exactly what you're going through. I also think it's just a really great reminder. Like, I've read back. When I moved in with my dad in June, I read back through some of my ones that I wrote when I was going through my breakup, and like the the mindset I was in, the things I was feeling, and the fact that I thought I was never going to get out of that. And then when I was reading it, I was like, I don't know who that is. And like the same with manifesting, you don't even realize you've manifested something when you're writing it down. You're keeping these journals. Like, I'm just a firm believer of you should keep them all. And I didn't bring any old ones, but I brought both my Roxy manifesting notebooks that have like old stuff written in them, but I always reread them.
Yes. And actually, I do think a big part of manifesting is being grateful. And I think you're so right. Being able to look back at things and being grateful for like the smallest things in life will get you very, very far. And like, that's one of like, again, one of my biggest mind shifts since I started manifesting is actually being grateful for everything. Like, quite literally everything. Like,
Yeah, I agree.
I've told you before, haven't I? The punnet of strawberries.
Yeah. Yeah, you did tell me.
I'm grateful for every single time. I order a punnet of strawberries every single week. Like, I love strawberries. They're one of my favorite fruits. And like, we just order strawberries now weekly. They're just like a key staple on our food shop. I remember
No,
when
I love that.
I remember when I first moved to London, and I remember thinking I really wanted a punnet of strawberries, and I couldn't afford a punnet of strawberries. And it has stuck in my mind so vividly because I'm literally like, I can now buy strawberries every single week. And every time those strawberries arrive in that food shop, I think, I'm so grateful that I've got these strawberries because I remember the day where I couldn't afford these strawberries.
No, but I think that's like the whole thing is not like not everything you're gonna manifest in life is gonna take shape in like a massive form. But
No.
like being grateful for the tiny things of like being able to afford your strawberry is what gets you further in life, because then you're so grateful for every moment that like, yeah, you're gonna have bad days, you're gonna have days that are off, but like if you do view things as like I really tried my best to view this whole chaotic move, this whole stress of the unknown, as instead I'm grateful for the opportunity to be able to do all these things, and I'm grateful that I don't know what my future holds because it's obviously going to be so great. And that's like the mindset shift I had to have. And like, but you know what, guys, we'll revert back to this moment when I'm saying this in 6 months' time, because I honestly don't know what 6 months
Yeah.
down the line is going to be. But I'm like, oh my God, like I'm grateful for my friends. Like I'm grateful that I'm here with my sister. I am grateful that I was able to move. Like it's just,
The way your mindset works. And I think that's actually that's also, I think, a really key part to being able to deal with navigating your 20s and dealing with the harder times in life. I think that is a really good way to help you. Well, for me anyway, it helped me. But I think it is really applicable to helping a lot of people. It just changes your mindset. Like, it changes the whole shift in how you view life, and I think that's really important, and I think that can help you navigate yourself through your 20s.
no, I agree. Because I think honestly, I'm trying to think probably what the worst part of my 20s was. Probably the breakup situation. But I really started like my diary when I was writing it at the time. Every morning I started with like three things I'm grateful for.
Mm.
And like then I would write all the sad stuff that I was feeling. But I would like be like some of the entries I was reading it right before I moved because I was like, I want to remind myself. And so I was like, I'm grateful for my iced coffee. I'm grateful that I woke up today. I am grateful that I'm going to meet Lissy for like a shoot. Like I was just like, I am grateful. I am grateful. I am grateful. And like at Christmas time this year, there was some bad stuff going on, and then it was like one thing after another, and like all these things. And I was like, okay, I am grateful for my family. I am grateful that it's sunny. I am grateful
I
that I'm seeing Lissy. Like
When sunshine comes out, I'm always like,
yeah,
I'm so grateful. I'm seeing blue sky right now.
I'm like, at one point I was like, I'm grateful that I'm going to read my new book tonight. I'm grateful that I'm reading in the sun on the balcony. Like,
It's the smallest things, isn't it?
we're just grateful, girlies. I am grateful. Grateful. I am grateful that this move created this podcast.
Too right. And I think we should leave it at that.
Yeah, honestly, I have no idea, guys, what we've rambled about. Like,
We're just kind of having a conversation and just seeing where it takes us.
yeah, I'm like, it's because I'm editing it, and I'm gonna be like, I don't actually know. It's actually gonna be a podcast for me too, because I actually have no idea what we spoke about.
But that's fun. We're just having a catch up.
Yeah, I'm honestly a bit delirious because also like we haven't started the topics yet. I'm just a bit delirious with the jet lag and like I don't know what I said today, but like that's okay.
You did great, sweetie.
Okay, guys, we are gonna end it there. Obviously, keep a lookout on our socials for our dilemma box and our juicy secrets box. But
I want to hear them. I want to hear them.
guys, we want the biggest. Lissy is practically begging for your juiciest secrets right now. Okay, guys, like don't let us down. But our topic next week is basically it's gonna be on the topic of friendships, but it's gonna be more like the bad things that we've gone through and how we've navigated new friendships, old friendships, outgrowing.
Toxic friendships, complicated friendships.
Yeah, wow, we've got some some great info for you guys. I'm excited, and I think I'll still be in Colorado and Missy will be in London, so we'll tune in from there next week.
Perfect. Love you.
Love you all.
Bye.
Bye.